crossed into Iraq at 10 o'clock last night.
Far from home, covered in dust, and no doubt dog-tired. But he was on the front lines of the big story, and the grin on his face said it all. David Bloom was in his element.
You can't see 3 feet in front of you because the sand is just whipping and so fierce.
He always kept this sort of boyish enthusiasm, and he brought a real sort of zest and passion to everything he did.
His enthusiasm was infectious, and it won over everyone, including the Pentagon brass, who reluctantly approved what seemed like a wild idea to embed an NBC satellite truck, the Bloommobile, with the Army formation leading the first wave into Iraq. He won his wife Melanie over too.
He was so full of this vision, and he knew he could make it happen, and he did.
Weekend Today Show viewers saw that side of David too. On and off TV, he embraced everything with passion, especially his family.
When he was home, he was doting on our 3 little girls, and he just lit up the room.
The twins were 9 and the baby 3 when David headed to Iraq. Melanie knew the dangers he faced on the front lines.
We got rockets coming in on us. Tom, we're under attack right now.
On April 6, 2003, her worst fears were realized.
He was airlifted from the battlefield and died at a military field medical unit this morning.
The news stunned Melanie in more ways than one.
Did they tell you how he had died?
At the time, I remember that they said he died from a blood clot, and I really couldn't wrap my mind around that.
In the middle of a war zone, David was killed by something that takes 300,000 lives here at home every year, a complication of deep vein thrombosis, DVT. A blood clot in his leg, likely brought on in part from long hours and days cramped inside an armored vehicle, had broken loose and traveled to his lungs. It caused the pulmonary embolism that took his life. At the time, neither David nor Melanie knew anything about DVT.
One night, he called from the satellite phone in the middle of the night.
Instead of sleeping inside the safety of the vehicle, David was spending that night outside. He explained to Melanie why.
I can't bear another night inside that tank with my knees pulled up to my chin. My legs have been cramping up on me.
What Melanie now knows is a common symptom of DVT. After David's death, Melanie received thousands of letters from those touched by his story. Today, she is an advocate for DVT awareness.
It could be a lasting tribute to David that I think he'd be proud of, to know that his death, if nothing else, has helped save other lives.
So how are the kids these days?
Oh, the kids are great. The twins.
Melanie Bloom has remarried and now has a blended family of 5 children. And as she spreads the word about DVT and David's legacy, she takes comfort in the almost prescient words of his final email.
When the moment comes, when you are talking about my last days, I am determined that they will say, he was devoted to his wife and children, and he gave every ounce of his being, not for himself, but for those whom he cared about most, God and his family.